Hi and welcome back. Through this video, we are going to learn about how to set up Boto3 in the local Windows environment. Boto3 is Python SDK library to interact with AWS offered services. So far, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe to this channel immediately. There are many more videos pipelined. There are certain dependencies before we install the Boto3 in our local environment. For example, you must have Python and pip installed available on your local platform. I'm not going to cover as a scope of this video to how to set up the Python or install the Python and make it working in your local environment, but I'm going to leave you with a little bit of hint so you can download Python, the latest version of the Python from this particular URL. And these details are provided in my GitHub link, which is there in the description. You can find all the details from the description below. Once you download it, it goes in your specific download folder. You can locate your download package of Python, double click on it as it is already installed for me. So I'll get the modify, repair, uninstall screen rather than install configuration screen, which will match with this. So you make sure that the specific options like a pip is selected, and in the next screen also make sure that you have a Python to environment variable, add Python to environment variable is selected, and complete your installation. Once the installation is completed, your Python and pip is ready to be used. You can verify your installation by going to the command prompt, the command line basically, to verify if the Python installation and the pip installations are perfectly done. So you can say Python ---- version and you should be able to see the Python version. And same thing with the pip, you can do pip ---- version and it should show you the version of pip here. So this is the basic prerequisite, and next one is AWS CLI should be there on the local path. You can do without that also, but it's very convenient if you have a AWS CLI installed. The Boto3 uses the key configured in the local environment to interact with the AWS services. So what we are going to do next is we are going to use the pip command to set up the AWS CLI. So we say pip install and then package names, which is AWS CLI, and also other package Boto3. So these two packages I'm going to install. If you have these two packages installed and not working somehow because of the packages are not of the same compatible versions, you can add -u for updating the package. Otherwise, if you are doing first time, you can go with this command to install afresh. So this installation is going to take a little bit of time. Meanwhile, I'll give a trip to the GitHub URL here, which I have kept it in the description of the video. You can obtain from there. The README file explains all of the processes and the commands which are required. So you can obtain these informations and directly jump on doing the hands-on. Coming back, by this time our installation should be done. So yeah, this is completed, and once the installations are done, you should be able to configure the AWS access key ID and the access key secret key basically to interact with the AWS services. So for that, the another dependency is to go to the AWS Management Console, create a IAM user and the key for the IAM user, and this user is going to be programmatic user. The programmatic user is required to do the interaction over the Boto3, right? So Boto3 is the programmatic way of accessing the AWS services. So you have to make sure that you create a user with the programmatic access. So this is the option that you should choose. You can give a user certain name like a Boto3 user. This is what I'm going to give a name, and you can give any of the name. So this programmatic access is going to make sure that the user uses the access key ID and secret access key to interact with AWS API. That's our requirement. Or the SDKs. SDK is basically, this is the SDK. The Boto3 is the Python SDK, which is making sure that we are using the Boto3 as a development tool to interact with the AWS services. Next is the permission. In the permission, you have to just click on the attach existing policies directly. Here you can filter out the policies that you want to allow or add to this particular user. So I'm going to, for my sample test, I'm going to have at least the EC2 access. So I'm going to say EC2 full access, and I'll give this. Plus, I'm also going to give certain other access. I'm going to give the S3 full access. So these two accesses will allow the SDK to interact only with the two of the services that I have selected. So EC2 and S3 are the two services Boto3 program can interact with, right? And rest of the other, if it's trying, it will not get the connectivity. I'm just going to skip the unwanted things to save the time right now because it's not related to our context, but it's very important to add the keys. And then finish it with the user creation, and here we'll get the credentials basically. So I need to download the credential, and this credential is going to have the data like this. So either I can use the downloaded one or this one to configure. So going back to the command line, here in command line, as I have already installed my AWS CLI, so I can say AWS and configure, and this will allow me or ask me to key in the values of access key ID. So I can just select this part, copy it, and come back here and give that. And then next give the data from this secret access key, these two values, and I'm going to configure my default region as a US East 1. So this is selected. If it's not selected for you, you can just type US East 1. If it's the first time, it will not be showing you, so you can just type this one. This is the North Virginia. How you can make sure is just go to your account and go to any non-global services like EC2 or something else, and you will see the selected region, and here the region code will show. So this is the region US East 1. So by any chance, if you want to use something else like Ohio, you can click over there and then you copy paste or type this US East 2. Just feel free to select your preferred region as a default region. Now it's almost ready to go over the Boto3 and start testing what Boto3 part is configured so far, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just start with some of the basic stuff to make a testing. So I'll be creating some Python code. So I'm going to create a directory saying that Boto3 workspace, and I'm going to go into this directory. This is having nothing. So let's create some of Python file to test if the Boto3 is working well. So let's start with a very small example of launch EC2 instance. Here we are going to just write some few lines of code to launch an EC2 instance. So we'll provision an EC2 virtual machine, and that would be very smaller piece of code to do that. Doesn't require a lot of coding here. So Boto3 makes the life very simple. Just import Boto3 in a first place, and then ask the Boto3 to give the resources object. So the simple thing is call the Boto3 API and say resources function, resource function to specify which resource of AWS you want, and Boto3 will give the object of that. So it's going to initialize the object with the preset values, and it will connect. So this is basically talking to the local environment that we have configured using the AWS configure. So this is going to make use of access key ID and secret access key, right? So that is what it is going to use and make resource initialization done. So once we have a EC2 object, we can invoke the API function of the EC2, which is create instances. And create instances takes a couple of parameters. So we are going to mention the parameters over here. The first parameter it takes is image ID, and second parameter it takes is the minimum and maximum mean count number of instance basically that you want to provision. We are going to specify the values, right values for each of them in a minute or second. So firstly, we'll just see what mandatory parameters are required to be passed, and we'll skip all of them. So when you are launching your EC2 instance through management console, there are a bunch of screens that has to be filled, and then you finally do it. But using the CLI or Boto3, it is more neat and clean. So here you need not to go through all of those complexity. You just specify the minimal parameter which makes sense for your context to provision the resource, and rest of the things will be all right. So here these are the 4 parameters that we are going to pass. Image ID is AMI, so Amazon machine image. We have to pull out from the specific region that we are operating in. We are operating in a US East 1, which is North Virginia. So we have to go to management console and verify what image ID AMI is available for us. I will take one of them and replace here. Number of EC2 instance we are going to provision is 1, and max is also 1. We are not going more than 1 for our testing. This is just a test 1. Maybe in a production or in a real-time development scenario, you may require to provision multiple instances at a time, so you can utilize this parameter accordingly. Then you are going to require to fix the instance type as a desired instance type. For free tier, I'm going to use as T2 micro, and that's what our input would be for this. So let's get the image ID from the management console, and we'll be done then. So let's get back to launch instance, and these are the AMIs that is given. So you can pick any of them randomly, and here in the first one I see is the free tier eligibility. I can just take the first one, and replace it over here in the image ID parameter. Rest of the things are all set. If we wish to print out the response which comes back here of the successful call, will be the instances ID. So if we are launching 1 or more instances, the IDs of them will come as an array, as a return. So what we are going to do is we are going to collect the instances ID in an instances variable as an array, and then print out. In our case, we have only 1, so we don't have multiple IDs over here, so we don't have to iterate really. What we are going to do is we'll call it as a instances, and pass the 0 as a first index, and this is the object of the instances, basically representing a lot of data, but we are interested in the ID of it for now, so we'll just print the ID of it. That's all, and let's save it. We can run, so we can call it as a Python launch EC2 instance .py file and then run it. Once we have things running, we get as a ID return. So once the EC2 instance is kicking into provision, it takes the ID as a successful action, and it will just give to our program, and our program is going to print it out over here. So this ID is getting printed. Let's go to the management console once more and see what is there. So if we can distinguish from all of these whatever printed, our ID ends with E1D2. So the last four characters are E1D2, which is this one, and this is in initialization state right now. So this is the one that is being initialized. This is up and running, and some of the health check and other data is still progressing. So this is how it looks like. Let's refresh, and this is the final thing as of now. So this is how you provision your resources so easily using the Boto3. And this is just a simple example. Let's take another example. Suppose if one of my EC2 instance, for example this, right, is stopped accidentally or just for maintenance, whatever the reason, if it's stopped, and I am interested to just automatically my instances should be restarted or started, basically, which is in a stopped, especially which is in a stopped state. So any instances which are in a stopped state, I want them in a particular time duration must be started. So what I'm going to do, create one more Python file which says start EC2 instances, and this one is going to go through all of the instances. It's going to list out all the instances, and will just iterate through all of the instances and see that if any of the instances has the state as stopped. If so, then try to start it. So first thing first, let's get the resource initialized. Same thing as the previous one. We are going to call this and Boto3.resource and pass EC2. Then what we are going to do is we are going to go through each of the instances that we receive through this call. We are going to call instances.all function, and this function is going to return us the list of all of the instances that is available in this particular region, and taking that instance one by one, each of them as a I, we are going to go over and check if the instance state having the state name as stopped. So if any of the state is stopped, then we are going to take action as a start. So if it is stopped state, then let's say we are interested to start it again. So this is what we are going to play over here. Once this is ran, then what will happen is it will attempt to start the instance which is currently in a stopped state. So let's go back to this management console and then refresh the tab. We'll see that the instance that was into the stopped state was this one. So we voluntarily stopped it 98B, and now it is being restarted. You can see that it's being started again. So this is what it can do for you and it's a super simple, neat and clean coding of Python, which is just a 3 to 4 lines of code, which can control the infrastructure, control your development API calls and things very easily. It allows you to do plenty of the things very easy way, right? So that's all, folks, I have for now. Hope you have liked this video as well, and make sure to subscribe to get more and more videos from me. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.